US State Department has designated the Resistance Front, a shadow outfit of Pakistan-based terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba, as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. The official statement reads, TRF, a front and proxy of LET, claimed responsibility for the April 22nd Pahalgam attack, which killed 26 civilians. This was the deadliest attack on civilians in India since the 2008 Mumbai attacks conducted by the LET. The State Department said that its action demonstrated the Donald Trump administration's commitment to protecting its national security interests and to counter terrorism. India, of course, has welcomed this decision. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar described the development as a strong affirmation of India-US counter-terror cooperation. So what does this really mean? What does an FTO designation mean for the TRF, which is a proxy of the Lashkar-e-Toiba? Designation has significant legal consequences, including financial sanctions, immigration restrictions, and several other penalties that are placed on these organizations. US persons and entities are prohibited from providing material support to these designated organizations, so that's where your financial restrictions come in. As far as immigration curbs go, members and supporters of the organization that may be flagged as such will be denied entry into the United States. This designation as a foreign terror organization also leads to several other penalties, including restrictions on defense exports and sales, controls over exports of dual-use items as well. But this is not it. This, of course, is just the first step. India is not going to stop at just this sanction. In fact, government sources have told CNN News 18 that the next step is to take this to the Financial Action Task Force, and another letter has been sent by government to FATF against Pakistan already. India is making a strong case for grey listing Pakistan. Remember, Pakistan has been on the FATF grey list on and off. The intermediate report of the FATF just a few months ago, for the first time, had mentioned Pahalgam. Now, with the United States designated TRF as a terror group, which is the mastermind behind that Pahalgam attack, India's case is only further strengthened, is what we believe. So far, 3 letters have already been written to the FATF by India, and a 4th one has also now been written, citing the case that the US State Department has made to ensure that Pakistan is back on the radar of the Financial Action Task Force.
In the biggest diplomatic victory since Operation Sindoor, India gets the US State Department to add Pakistan-backed terror group TRF listed as a designated foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. State Department's release also says that TRF is a Lashkar proxy which claimed responsibility for the April 22nd Pahalgam attack, which claimed 26 civilians. It was not an easy journey for India to convince the world on TRF's role in the Pahalgam terror attack, especially with Pakistan and China shielding TRF openly. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar went on to count as his foreign policy achievement to get TRF's name removed from the 25th April UNSC statement. India briefed UNSC on TRF's role, which was blocked by China, putting a technical hold on it, which is a procedural delay used by permanent UNSC members to avoid open vetoes. The decision by US government to put TRF in a terror list is a biggest endorsement of Indian government's position in last 3 months. This is for the first time that any foreign country has put TRF on its terror list. This list consists of groups like Boko Haram, Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, etc. Now let's talk about the impact this will hold on Pak-based proxy groups. Stringent financial restrictions disrupt access to international financial systems, immigration restrictions on its members, international spotlight on its terrorism activities.
To put this in perspective, joining me on this broadcast is Lisa Curtis, Director of Indo-Pacific Security Program at the Center for a New American Security. Thank you so much, Ms. Curtis, for joining us here on Brass Tacks. I want to begin by asking you, there is a comparison that I want to draw to as to what has happened today. China has blocked multiple attempts that India has made at the UNSC to block terror groups, to block terrorists like Masood Azhar. In that context, what the United States has done today, how significant do you think that is?
Well, I think it is significant, but it's not surprising. The U.S. Has always designated known terrorist groups when they commit acts of terrorism. Of course, long ago, the U.S. designated Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, And when there have been offshoots of Lashkar-e-Taiba, like the resistance force is, they have also designated those groups as well. So I was not surprised to see that the State Department moved quickly to be able to designate this organization a terrorist organization. So it shows that the United States supports India, wants to work with India on counterterrorism, and really is opposed to any terrorism anywhere. And even when it happens against another nation. And so I think this is significant because it shows the U.S. is standing with India in the face of a terrorist attack that was sponsored by a group that is based in Pakistan.
Do you think this also is a result of the efforts that India has taken in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack? India had dispatched its emissaries, several delegations of members of parliament, a bipartisan panel, so to say, to multiple countries, including the United States. Do you think that is something that could have pushed the United States and the State Department to take a decision like this?
Well, I think it certainly helped. But I think even if those delegations would not have visited the United States, that the State Department and the Treasury Department would have still made these designations. It certainly didn't hurt. I'm sure it helped. But again, the United States has a very, established process for designating terrorist groups. It looks at the information and it decides, whether it believes these groups have actually engaged in terrorism. And I think they would have come to that conclusion even if these delegations had not visited Washington.
Even as we speak, just about a few minutes ago, we had this foreign ministry statement that came out from Pakistan, where they go on to talk about how the probe in the Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 innocent civilians in India, the probe in that was inconclusive, that there was absolutely no proof that anyone from Pakistan was responsible for it. In fact, they are calling this an anti-Pakistan propaganda that India is leading and something that the United States is falling prey to. How do you read that?
Well, again, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, we have seen Pakistan-based terrorist groups commit acts of terrorism in India over the past, 30, 40 years. So this is something that is not surprising. And it's also not surprising to see have different groups, spin-off groups. This has happened over and over in the past. I mean, you look at the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Clearly, Lashkar-e-Taiba was behind those attacks. And, even with ample evidence, Pakistan, would continue to deny that. So I don't think that, we were expecting that Pakistan was going to, come clean or ever admit that a group, coming from its territory committed this act of terrorism. So I think we just have to look at the facts. We have to the United States should work closely with India as we establish the facts of this heinous terrorist attack that occurred on April 22nd and move forward. I think India has learned that trying to get Pakistan to investigate terrorist attacks that originate on its own territory is a dead end. It just has not resulted in any significant action by Pakistan against these groups. And it is time for Pakistan to shut down the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, to put its leaders in jail once and for all. These groups have been around a long time, and it's just simply unacceptable that they can still operate on Pakistani territory.
And that's exactly what I want to ask you. Not to be a cynic, but several of these Pak-based terrorists, several of these terror groups have been designated as terror groups or have been sanctioned by the United States even in the past. But Pakistan has been in denial. They claim that these are charity groups. They are in denial that they have anything to do with terror or fomenting terror into India. That safe haven that Pakistan is for these terror groups, that continues. How will it be any different this time around?
Yes, well, it's really difficult for the United States to deal with Pakistan because they are, continuing to harbor these terrorist groups that are attacking India. At the same time, they do help the United States on other terrorist groups like ISIS-K. We all saw that President Trump acknowledged Pakistan's role in capturing and extraditing one of the perpetrators of the Abbey Gate bombings. These were the bombings in Afghanistan in 2021 that killed 13 U.S. service members and over 200 Afghans. So it's very complicated because the U.S. Wants to cooperate with Pakistan on terrorist groups that are of mutual interest, groups like ISIS-K, TTP. But at the same time, other parts of the Pakistan, military establishment are harboring these terrorist groups that are attacking India. So it makes it very complicated for the United States to have a good, coherent policy toward Pakistan when it comes to terrorism.
Is that why then we do not see the United States putting its complete and full support and full weight behind India? Because there are some areas where they do need Pakistan as well, and that's something that could perhaps cast a shadow on the relationship that India and the United States also share.
Well, I think you are seeing the U.S. put the full weight of its support behind India. The U.S.-India relationship is moving forward. It's in good shape in many areas. You just had a Quad meeting where the Indian foreign minister was in Washington, D.C., had a series of meetings with, top officials, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, was very much supported, and there was a lot of interest in expanding the U.S.-India relationship. So I think that bilateral relationship is in good shape. I think where we've had some strain on the relationship is President Trump, taking responsibility for the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, talking about wanting to mediate on Kashmir. That, of course, caused some ripples in the relationship. But I think that we can overcome those, particularly if we see a trade deal announced soon. Things seem to be moving in the right direction on the trade deal front. And I think that would be a real boost to the bilateral relationship and hopefully move the two countries past the aftermath of the India-Pakistan conflict, which clearly caused some tension in the relationship.
And speaking of that credit that President Trump on multiple occasions has sought for ending this conflict between India and Pakistan this time around, this decision by the U.S. State Department on TRF, do you think that perhaps could be another move by President Trump or his administration to try and claim an upper hand in this conflict, or at least try and claim that he still has some role to play?
Well, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that the Trump administration has been very clear on its policy toward terrorists anywhere. And this is part of that policy, to take a tough line and not excuse any terrorism wherever it happens, anywhere in the world. So I don't think this is any kind of play to try to mediate on Kashmir. I really don't think so. I think this is simply showing the U.S. commitment to countering terrorism, standing with India, in the aftermath of this attack, and is, a good step for the United States to take.
One last question, Ms. Curtis, before I let you go. The next step, of course, that India would want is to put Pakistan back on the Financial Action Task Force grey list. Pakistan has been on and off that list. Do you think this recent move by the U.S. State Department would be one right step or one step closer to achieving that? Would it help at all?
Well, I think this is an interesting point. In fact, this came up. I testified before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, the subcommittee on South and Central Asia Affairs, a few weeks ago. And one of the Republican congressional members actually asked this question about whether Pakistan needs to go back on the gray list of the Financial Action Task Force. And I think this is something that India and the United States need to work together on and determine if this is, in fact, something that is merited.
Well, India is definitely making that push. We do hope that the United States, and we bank on that support from the United States as far as putting Pakistan back on the FATF grey list is concerned. But I have to leave it there. Lisa Curtis, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Network 18 is now the clear leader in digital media, with 55% more users on native platforms and social media than Times Internet. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.